Welcome back to another edition of the Be Forever Cool podcast. My name is Rex45, and we have Luis Ortega, VP of Development from Dainese, back on the show. What's going on, man? How you doing this morning?
Hey, how you doing today?
I'm
Good to see that you're still around.
Yeah, me too, man. It's I can't speak for everyone, but I like living and being healthy. So, it's unfortunate for people, down here in Florida that did
Yeah.
have some people lost their lives, homes destroyed, cars and such. So for a lot of people, definitely, I'm thinking about them and prayers with them. But it's a when you're in it, you do think about the most important things in life,
Yeah, for
in that
sure.
moment, especially something that you have no control over, Mother Nature and stuff like that. So hopefully, this here area is done for the season, but we got another month. So we'll see how it goes, man. So how things been with Dainese and all that fun stuff.
Really good, man. It's been a busy time. We're getting ready for ECMA in a couple of weeks in Milan. We're doing some product launches there, so it's been pretty busy. We work about a year in advance with the products. So
Okay.
right now, we're selling the 2025 product, but we introduced the 2025 product at the middle beginning of 2024, and we're actually now developing and finishing the samples for the 26 product, and also developing the 27 product. So we're always well ahead of time. We have a product timeline that stretches out 7 to 10 years,
Okay.
and that can move forward or back depending on development, depending on different things. It's an exciting time. Obviously, there's a lot of big changes here at Dainese with new ownership, new ideas, a lot of people that have come into the company that bring fresh perspective,
Right.
and it's always great to be accepting of new ideas. So it's a great time to be with Dainese.
Nice. Now, you say you guys are planning a year for this show. Is that new products or just how you're gonna lay out your show or represent the brand at EICMA?
It's a combination of a bunch of things. So obviously, new product. We're thinking a year and a half in advance. What can we have ready to present at EICMA that we will then shortly or in the same time period of EICMA be launching? Because if we bring something to EICMA a little too early, but it doesn't launch for a year, then it's kind of like all the buzz for that product is gone.
Mm-hmm.
And if we bring something to ECMA and it does launch, but it's not ready to launch, or we launch it prematurely, then you run into other issues as well. And then as far as like the layout for ECMA, we usually start that conversation in the beginning of the year. We want to make sure that we get the right location within ECMA, because location is everything there. It's a very, very big layout. I mean, if nobody's ever been to ECMA, compared to like the motorcycle shows we have here in the US where they all take place under one roof,
Okay.
ECMA is massive. Like, it takes place over a large area. Sometimes it takes up multiple halls in different buildings, so you actually have to walk from one building to another to see different product.
Wow.
It's really, really massive. It's something that if you're a motorcycle enthusiast, it's great to go there at least once in a lifetime just to see how big motorcycling is globally. Because here in the US, again, we look at it as a niche, small market,
Right.
but globally it's so massive, man. It's
Oh,
it's incredible.
wow, man, that's pretty impressive. I haven't been. I have to get it on the list of things to do. I've been to the ones here in the states and stuff like that. So it sounds like what's going on there is similar to, like, the Olympics, as far as venues and stuff like that. Um, but also is in Milan, so that can't be too bad of a time either,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, no. I mean, luckily they have pretty good food there.
Okay.
So it's like usually the hardest part about going to Italy every time I go is the flight there and the flight back. It's that 6, 7, 8 hour time change, 9 hour time change if you're coming from the West Coast to Italy. So
Right.
it can be a little brutal for the first few days you get there, and then it can be brutal for a few days when you get back. So as soon as I get back, I'm probably going to take a few days off just to get back into sleep
U-
pattern of
U.S.
being in the
time.
US.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
No, I hear that. Now, is that and how long does the show last? I mean, so you're there for like a week.
It's a week. Yeah, it's
A
a
week.
week. Yeah, we get there, we set up the week before, we get everything prepared like the Sunday before the event. On Monday, we do some run throughs. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we have people come visit us. We have meetings there. There's a lot of distributors that come from all over the world to meet us there, to sit down with us and discuss business and sign contracts and all kinds of different things that happen. So it's unlike the motorcycle shows here, which are very consumer driven. These are consumer driven, but very business oriented. So we're trying to connect with other businesses in other countries, trying to meet with our partners and solidify some of the deals that we already have going on.
And is this the show that you get as many of the top riders that you guys support to come out?
Not really.
Okay.
No, because it happens kind of in the middle of the season.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you think about it right now, like GP is in the flyaways, so they're doing like Japan, Australia, this and that. And then after that, they come back to the European round. Some of the manufacturers will have riders there. We sometimes have one or two people come for a day or two, but it's really hard to peg down some of the top riders for a week.
Gotcha. Yeah,
Like you
yeah.
can get them for a day or two, but getting them for more than a couple of days is really difficult because I mean, think about it, man. It's your day off from work. Do you really want to work?
Does it really work?
It's work, man. You'll be surprised. I mean, you think that these racers just show up and they kind of like put on their leathers. Like it's a really long day, man. When you sign with a factory team, for instance,
Right.
Ducati or Honda, any of the factory teams in the contract, they literally build in hours that you owe them in PR. So at every event, Thursday night, you have to be open for PR. Friday morning, you do your races. After you're done with your practices, PR.
Right.
Promotional events, meet and greets, this and that, or 2 days before, especially for like the Japanese riders. We just had the Japanese round in Motegi. They usually get there like on Tuesday before or Monday before, one, to get used to the time change, but two, because they have all these Honda and Yamaha events that they have to attend, that they have to go, these photo shoots, it's go to the factory, meet the employees. So it's
Yeah.
work, man.
It's work. I hear that. You would think it's fun all the time, but I gotta assume, some days those guys wake up on the other side of the bed and not want to smile.
Oh man, I gotta go shake hands and kiss babies again.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if I'm getting a fat check, I'll do it.
No, exactly. That's how I look at it too. But you do see. I think it was the Japanese round. I don't know if it was Mark Marquez or somebody you saw. Like somebody wanted to get a photo, but they were like hugging kind of tight, and he was kind of
Yeah,
trying to push away. And it's just, you do have to beat people back, which is
it's
go ahead.
there's a famous video of Rossi out where he's like going through the paddock, and in some of the paddocks, like just fans randomly walk through the paddock because
Yeah.
they're allowed to. They get VIP access or they pay for VIP access, and like these guys are trying to get from point A to point B to work, and this lady is like just randomly walking around, and Rossi hits her with her scooter, like kicks her out of the way, like and keeps going, and it's like the guy's got work to do. Like you
Yeah. Yeah.
might be there having a good time. That guy is there to work. That guy has got something to do. So
Yeah.
it's you don't see it as much because it doesn't get captured as much, but it
Right.
happens all the time when I go to different paddocks.
Oh, I can
You,
imagine.
you, you can see them like, hey, all right, yeah, great, great, great. I can't sign. I got things to do.
So fans, if you're listening, be easy with the riders when you
Respect
see them.
people's time. Yeah, respect people's time.
Time and space. Give them a little bit of space.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, let's jump right into it and talk about, since we're talking about the fans and the motorcyclists.
Mhm.
Let's talk about education a little bit, between the US and Europe. It
Mhm.
seems like, it's interesting. I had Track Stars on an episode, and we were talking about track days and how important it is to go and all this stuff. And someone in the comment was just essentially saying we're force feeding like the track is perfect and all this, and determined like to say like the street is the best way to be. So I know the education in the U.S. For different folks is all over the place, but it seems
Yeah.
like in Europe it's more organized. People are following the rules. I wouldn't say 100%, but a lot better than we are in the U.S.
Well, I think it's because in Europe they have a little bit more of an organized uh, way of doing things. If you look across all of Europe, most of the countries in Europe all have similar or very similar educational processes for getting your motorcycle license and how a motorcycle license works and so forth and so on. Here in the US, every state has its own individual laws. Some states don't require helmets, other states require helmets. Like, so here, there's no real federal mandate or federal guidance when it comes to motorcycling. And that's a big problem because you can be highly educated in one state. I think, one of the states that is the most stringent, but California is are very regulated, as you know. But they also have the biggest motorcycling community in the US. One, because of their overall size, but two, because of their overall climate.
Right.
You can ride a motorcycle there almost 12 months out of the year. You can do it in Florida too, but for 6 of the months, you're on fire because it's so hot.
Literally.
And for the other 6 months, for 3 of the next 6 months, it's raining all the time. So you have to get really good at riding in the rain. And then you have really like a 3 month window where you can comfortably ride a motorcycle, not burn to death or get pelted by palmetto bugs the entire trip.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And if you look at the way they do education, it's pretty good, but it's still not on par with what Europe does. Like Europe has the graduated licensing standard. So you, as a 16-year-old, you can get a license, and depending on the license, you can only qualify to buy a motorcycle up to so many cc's. And then after a certain amount of time, or if you take additional classes, you can graduate from that number of cc's to the next number of cc's. And again, it's a graduated licensing system. Here in the US, you can have a permit in most states, walk into a dealership and buy a Kawasaki H2R turbo. As long as you got the money, they don't care. They'll sell it to you.
Right.
So here we're more consumer based, but we're not really educational based. If we were more educational based, would it hurt the sales of motorcycles? I actually don't think so, because if you look at the majority of the sales right now of motorcycles in the US, they're low displacement bikes, 600 cc's or 500 cc's and below. So, we're already kind of seeing that the opportunity is there to change or better educate these new riders.
Right.
And even the MSF classes that we have here in the US are not really great. Like the MSF classes here are very basic. They just teach you enough to learn how to use the motorcycle, but they don't teach you anything really that's going to help you. They kind of give you the first step, and then they expect you to go and practice on your own.
Right. Now, you talked about federal level, the state level, and dealers, right? And also the consumer as well. They're
Yep.
responsible. At the end of the day, you're responsible to know as much information as possible. But we think with our hearts, and we forget about to read the fine print. At the moment, do you think that the feds should try to do something as far as making get federal rules in place for all the states, which will obviously on one hand make it easier for the states to deal with it because they can just say it's the Fed rules. Do you think dealers should be a little bit more responsible and not sell a new rider a H2? And again, as a consumer, you should know better, but
Yeah. Well, I would never regulate dealers to what they can sell, and I never would regulate consumers to what they can buy.
right,
If you really want to buy something, nobody should tell you you can't buy it unless it's something that's absolutely illegal. If it's something that's 100% illegal, then yeah, you shouldn't be able to buy it. But if it's something that's legal, if it's something that's available to you, that it's easy to obtain, and so like you should be able to buy it.
right,
Consumers should educate themselves because they should know that a dealer is not looking out for your best interest. A dealer is looking to sell motorcycles, and there's nothing against that because that's literally what they are. They are motorcycle sales shop. So if somebody walks in and, hey, I want to buy a motorcycle, one of the first questions they ask you is, what are you looking at? Well, I want a sport bike. The next question they ask you is not what you know, is how much do you have to spend? Because if you've got 30 grand, I'm going to sell you this Ducati V4S.
pretty much,
You're 17 years old, never ridden a motorcycle in your life, but here's a 220 horsepower motorcycle. Have at it.
right. So
And
go ahead,
yeah,
go
and
ahead.
on the Fed level, I'm not big on federal laws for to mandate a lot of things. I do think that there should be consensus across the U.S. at least for helmet laws. I know each state now has different variants of a no helmet law. So if you don't have a helmet, you have to carry so much in health insurance coverage or something. In the event you have an accident and you don't have that, you don't qualify for a lot of social programs to help you with the bills, which is good. If you want to take the risk, then you should pay for the reward.
So it sounds like we have guidelines so to protect insurance companies and
Yeah,
hospitals
yeah, yeah,
for
yeah.
when you jack up yourself on
Yep,
being a dumbass.
yep.
But we don't want to put anything in place to not you know to stop you from getting into or help stop you from getting into an accident. Well, not get you in an accident, but how badly you get hurt based on what you're wearing.
The only thing, if we can put one thing on the books, it would be that to get a motorcycle license, you need to do more than pass a very basic motorcycle test.
Mm-hmm.
Because most DMVs that do a motorcycle test, it's literally in a parking lot. You have to make a couple of stops within a certain distance. You have to make like a U-turn within a certain. It's very, very rudimentary. I mean, and most people that show up at those events will rent a motorcycle that's like 150 or 200 cc's, whatever qualifies as like
Right.
just a motorcycle in that state, and then go out, pass the test, take that license, go to the dealership, 1000 cc R1M, 4 hours later. And it's like, well, you should have to pass some sort of regulated course before you can get your license. And MSF is great, but again, MSF, a lot of the stuff that they're still teaching is still rudimentary.
Right. I agree. And do you think that the amount I don't know how many people in the U.S. ride motorcycles, but how many of them do you think have a motorcycle license? It,
I
even
believe the last time I checked, only 2% of licensed drivers in the US have a motorcycle endorsement.
right. So a lot of that's what I figure is I don't know the exact amount, but I from just talking to people and being around riders and stuff like that, most people got a bike. I don't even know if it's insured. There's a plate on it, and they're riding, and that's it. So it's not even not to say it's like the Wild Wild West, but even saying you have to have a motorcycle license, it's not even not to say enforced, but it's not really being enforced.
No, it's not. I mean, I just, I get a lot of news from the Northeast because that's where my friends and family are from. And even when I travel there, I see all these guys riding on the street on, dirt bikes without license plates. I see them riding on these scooters that they're buying at local furniture shops because these furniture shops are importing them from China or Indonesia. And they're just out on the street ripping around, no helmets, no nothing, no license plate. And, I would just send something about a kid that got killed on one of these scooters. He was zipping through in the nighttime. Somebody pulled out of a driveway or a parking lot, and the kid hit the front of the car. His passenger got pretty jacked up. The kid actually died. And it's sad because, why?
Yeah.
Because it's an unregulated motorcycle. The police aren't enforcing any of the laws. There's no one there to tell that place, that furniture shop that's selling that moped, hey, you can't sell that moped unless they have a license.
Right.
So, again, the regulation, if you're going to sell a motorized vehicle, XYZ should happen. And even now with electric bicycles, like there's electric bicycles out there that can go 40 miles an hour. That's not a bicycle anymore, man. That's a motorcycle.
Yeah. Yeah. I completely agree. And yeah, and so it's how do we reach folks in the U.S. to kind motorcyclists or even people who just are interested in safety? How do we convince them that an organization need to happen to kind of get everybody to come together to just kind of make it safer for everyone because like the kids in the city that don't have access to a track close by or a truck or anything to get there. Their only playing ground is the streets, and I get it because cops don't want kids to get hurt on their watch, so they let them do whatever they want. But then the neighbors are complaining because the kids are just doing this. So in Boston, for instance, they're putting speed bumps on every street just about, just to
Yeah.
to say, hey, we're gonna slow people down. But I got a truck, I don't slow down. So if I unless my car's lowered, I'm not slowing down for the speed bumps. So I don't even think those work. But it appeases the community, as if to say, the politicians are doing something. So it's like this, you know, how do we reach? How can we reach people? To get them to
It
start looking at this in a positive way.
it has to be a multi-tier attack, and it has to start with what you just said right there, the community. Like, other motorcyclists need to go to these young guys and girls on these illegal motorcycles, and they have to be the ones to speak to them. The moms and dads of these kids have to be the ones to speak to them. Like, it has to come. We can't just regulate everything. We can't just federal law and state law and city law everything. Yeah, we can make this illegal. We can make that illegal. Growing up, when I grew up, the community regulated the kids.
Yeah.
We didn't need the police to regulate us.
Right.
If we stepped out of line and our neighbor brought us home to our parents, that was all the regulation we needed. We weren't doing that again. And
No.
that's what we need. Like, we need motorcyclists to speak to these young men and women and kind of teach them the way. And then, eventually there's going to be, unfortunately, it's going to happen. Eventually, there's going to be laws put in place. There's going to be more regulation. There's going to be more restriction. And the more restriction that there is, there's not necessarily going to be a decrease in what's happening. It's just going to be more regulation to be able to ticket you, to fine you, to confiscate your motorcycle, to do this and that. And then that's going to affect the people that are out there legally doing it as well. Because anytime you have more regulation, that's more regulation that can be abused.
Oh
That's
yeah.
more reason to pull you over.
Right. For
That's
sure.
more. So, we really need to work as a community from the inside out, and don't wait for the government to mandate it to us. I know plenty of guys that ride illegally, and I tell them all the time, look, if you're going to do it, nobody can stop you. You're an adult. At least put a helmet on. At least put a jacket on. Put gloves on.
Right.
Do this, do that. Hey, do you have? I like the time of year that annoys me most in the U.S. is from January or from February to about June or July. I call that GoFundMe season, because that's when all the guys and girls that don't have insurance buy motorcycles or go ride motorcycles without medical insurance, without this and that, get into an accident, get hurt, and then put up a GoFundMe page because, hey, I've got $150,000 in medical bills now. You should have thought about that before you bought the motorcycle. Make sure you have insurance in place, because you're getting into an inherently dangerous sport.
Right.
You aren't necessarily going to be good at that sport. And if you yourself know that you're going to be reckless, then make sure that you, as a husband or a wife, have things in place to take care of your family in the event something happens to you. Like, your friends aren't your GoFundMe. We're not your insurance. But again, this is community. Community needs to be honest with each other.
Right.
Like, these are the conversations that we within the motorcycling community need to have with one another. Hey, man, you're riding a little reckless out there. You want to chill a little bit because there's a lot of traffic out tonight. You don't know this. Like, we need to regulate each other. And at the end of the day, when you get on the bike and you put your hand on the throttle, you're putting your own destiny in your hands. You're the one in control. And if you decide to act up, then you're gonna pay the consequences if the consequences come looking for payment.
You know, I'll give one piece of advice my buddy told me: before you do anything, just look around. Look
Yeah.
around first, because that could save you a lot. Um, so let's talk about, or I don't know if you can talk to this in Europe. How did they roll out their policy to get where it is right now? And was there pushback in the beginning? Is there pushback from the community now saying, why do I have to do all this? Especially if you grew up on the track per se as a young child, and at 15 you can ride 1,000, but now you got to go get a 400cc license. How did Europe convince everybody that wearing I mean the weather I think does it a little bit, wearing two-piece suits and gear and everything.
Yeah. I mean, Europe does it in a couple of different ways. I mean, there's always anytime there's legislation, no matter where it is around the world, there's always pushback. Nobody's like, "Oh man, that new law, I love it." Nobody's ever said that. There's
Unless
always
it's
going to be some discord.
yeah, you're absolutely right.
But like, take a look at Germany. Like Germany, what they did is they put into place rewards. So you go through this licensing tier. Every time you go up in a tier, your insurance fluctuates based on how your driving record and what you have.
Right.
If you own a two-piece suit and you wear a two-piece suit every time you ride, your insurance goes way down just because you're wearing the right safety gear, just because you're doing that. And this is something that I think would help a lot in the US because right now, one of the biggest things that's holding a lot of people back from buying motorcycles is one, the cost of motorcycles has gone really high up. That's why lower displacement bikes are selling so well. And more than anything, in a lot of states, the cost of insurance has gone really high up. Because if you think about it, a $15,000 or $20,000 motorcycle, if you crash it, 90% of the time, it's a total loss.
Right. Yep.
You bend the forks or you crack the frame, it's a total loss. Nobody wants to pay to move everything to a new frame and everything. So every time the insurance companies are doing this, they're taking a big risk, and that's why we're paying. I've seen premiums in excess of $3,000 a year to insure a motorcycle for 12 months in the Northeast,
Right.
where you're not going to ride for 4 or 5 of those months because it's going to be too cold. It's going to be snowing. So you're literally paying, 400 or $500 a month for your motorcycle to sit in your garage. Now, if I told you, hey, if you pass this class, you automatically get a 10% reduction on insurance, which insurance already does. If you have a safety class, you get a reduction on your car driving and your motorcycle driving. But if we had more tiers that can give you bigger discounts, I think it would reward both the rider to be more educated and reward their pocket by bringing their insurance costs down. And it would also open up more people to being a little bit more accommodating to motorcycles because, hey, my insurance on my bike is not more than my insurance on my car.
Right. Exactly.
Yes.
And you talked about incentives and discount. Um, should bike manufacturers offer incentives for having safe gear? I know they don't
No,
want to get in bed
because
with that, but should they?
yeah, they won't because that would be kind of like if you bought a car and you put a 5-point harness seatbelt in your car, the manufacturer of the car could care less.
Right.
Like
Right.
we already gave you the car has the brakes to stop you, the EMU, it has anti-lock brakes, it has this, it has that, whatever safety features that the motorcycle comes with. We've done everything we can do on the motorcycle. Now you have to improve the most important part of the motorcycle, which is the person sitting in the seat.
Right.
And that's where I always tell people, I always try to incentivize people, whether it's on the track or the street, the more education you do, whether organized education or your own education, like there's nothing that stops you from going to a parking lot and practicing your emergency stopping, practicing how to use your brake, how to cover the brake. So as soon as you get off the gas, your finger should be on the brake. And then how to use the brake, how to initiate braking, and then go to full braking. So in the event that you ever have that, you have the muscle memory where you don't just snap the brake lever, you put your finger on it, you make that initial contact, you know that the pads are on the disc, and now you can go full brake, and you're not going to necessarily flip the bike over
Right.
because you're not jabbing and stabbing.
Exactly. Oh, slam
But
yourself
if
to
you
the
never
ground.
practice that, yeah, if you never practice that, what happens in an emergency?
Oh, you
Grab
can
the brake. Yeah, here
eject.
you go.
What
Ejecto
about?
cito.
Yeah, for sure. I know about that. And I,
Yeah.
I learned that lesson early on. Crashing as well. Leaving an after party at 4 in the morning. Riding home on my bike. Going through an intersection with flashing lights, and somebody blew the intersection. I didn't think about cold tires. And I didn't think about, if I grabbed the brake. I didn't think I grabbed the brake. I wasn't even doing 20 miles an hour. I didn't think I grabbed it that hard, but I grabbed it hard enough. It just slammed me right to the ground.
Yep.
So So yeah, and being on the track, or practice and wherever you practice, it makes you a better rider. And when certain emergency situations come up, you know how to deal with as best as possible.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So
So yeah, for the street, that's what that's what I think. I think at the end of the day, each person really needs to take responsibility for their education, and either whether it's organized or not organized, go out and practice in more controlled conditions in a big parking lot or something like that. Practice some skills that will and can help you dramatically. If you look at what we do with like the champ school, we do parking lot drills,
okay.
and these are low speed drills, but they set uh, the foundation for what you're going to learn later on. And that's all you need is a very, very good foundation. Once you have a good foundation and you build on those skills, you build a much better house. If you have a very weak foundation, everything that you learn after that weak foundation is going to crumble because you didn't have the right information to begin with.
Right. Um, our community. I guess this is hopefully this will help it because it sounds like a lot more as you're saying, writers and people in the community needs to bring safety, make safety a bigger part of it, not just to get together and to ride in and stuff like that. Because we see on social media with all of the folks that are getting bikes to vlog and to video and do things, and everybody got their throttle pin, doing a buck 80 on the highway and stuff like that. And some people like seeing that. Some people are big fans of. I mean, we're all big fans of speed. Um, but yeah, I think hopefully in the future we can get the community to start thinking about safety a little bit more. And we talk about it on the show and been talking about the show, and we do see the pushbacks in the comments and stuff like that, and see other people talk. And everybody's trying to make a name for themselves. I shouldn't say everyone, but a lot of people are trying to make a name for themselves, so they tell people in the comments that you can go start riding on 1,000. And then when you listen to their story, they'll say, I wouldn't recommend it. But it's like, well, why even say it? Why even have that tagline up? It's just like, don't put it in someone's head, because they might not listen to the whole story. It's almost like
Yeah.
CNN and these big outlet that give you a sound bite, and then when you listen to the whole thing, you're like, oh really, that's all that was. um let's
I mean,
go.
yeah, the community has a weird thing. I mean, obviously adrenaline is a hell of a drug.
Hmm.
I mean, we're in motorcycling because of the adrenaline. Let's be honest. I mean, I still remember the very first time I got off a motorcycle, my hands were shaking, and I couldn't understand why. And I'm like, that's the drug. That's the adrenaline. That's what makes me want to get back on a motorcycle every time. But we should be honest with each other. We should talk to each other, and don't be preachy. Don't preachy is never going to be good. But just suggest to people, hey, you know what, man, you really should wear a helmet. Have try this, try, like it's very difficult because this is a very centralist sport.
Hmm.
Everyone is in their own little bubble, in their own motorcycle. They're on their bike. They want to experience what they want to experience. We just need to be a little bit more proactive in trying to positively enforce wearing gear is really important.
Right.
Education is really important. And yeah, I've seen all the videos. I see the guys ripping through different states on certain highways. Crash videos get a lot of likes, get a lot of views, and everything else. But every time there's a crash, man, that's another person that might not be going home to their family. So the visual is really interesting. When you see a car accident on the side of the road, everybody stares.
Right.
But how many actually stop and think, oh man, that could be like a mom that's not going to get home to her kids today or something. So it takes some maturity to like take it from that visual aspect to like, oh man, if somebody had told that kid like wear a helmet, he might still be here today.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think there's not enough of the day after what
Yep.
happens, right? It's like, I've crashed over 8 times, and screwing my hand and fractured dislocated wrist, and lacerated spleen and stuff like that, and I was wearing gear.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, but I also know that all my crashes, gear did protect me, because it would have been a lot worse And most of the crashes, I was fine, and I've gotten ran over at the track. I low sided, somebody rode over me in my gear, and like I raced the next day. So it's like a lot of my crashes, didn't end up going to the hospital, but one did. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And but at the end of the day, like having gear, even that crash I mentioned at 4 in the morning, like I had jeans on. If I had riding jeans on, I wouldn't have jacked up my knee. I had a quarter size gouge in my knee from hitting the ground, right? And it's so and after that, I'm always wearing riding jeans or pants, right? So it's like I learned my
Yeah.
lessons. So for me, I know it's easy enough for me to wear gear all the time, even down here in Florida, sweating and all that stuff, because I think of you know if I go down, what could happen? I already know what could happen if I go down without any gear on. So it's like when I see people not even just like without gloves, it's just kind of
Yeah.
like, man. It feels weird, like even when I go to tech on my bike, it's like not having gloves on feel weird. So
Yeah.
I do hope the community, in the U.S. starts to think a little bit more about the safety aspects of it. And I know it's expensive, but you only have one life.
Yeah, I mean, there's products for every price point, and obviously, as the price goes up, the protection increases. If you really know what you're looking for. But same thing with any other sport that you do. If you cry once, buy once.
Yeah.
If you buy the right product the first time, yeah, it's probably going to hurt your pocket. But if you buy the right product, that product should last you a significant amount of time.
I completely agree. And as we're talking about products, let's talk about helmets and where they are today, and as far as safety and innovation and stuff like that, and how do you see it coming in the future? We're gonna hit a button and the helmet just surrounds our head. What's
No,
technically
no,
like?
the nanotech technology is not quite there just yet.
All right, at least you're working on
uh,
it.
yeah, somewhere, yeah. No, helmet technology is actually right now uh, as far as it can be for the moment. I mean, there are a lot of things right now that are being developed by different companies that are being looked at as possible future enhancements to motorcycle helmets. The last big motorcycle helmet innovation was getting better aerodynamics in motorcycle helmets. For years, I mean, I want to say up until like the mid 2000s, the idea that the best helmet is a perfectly round helmet, because when it hits the ground, it starts to roll, it skids, like that's the awry mentality, is the round helmet is the best helmet in the world. And in some cases, yeah, it is. There's less sharp corners and things like that. But then people started putting these helmets more and more in wind tunnels and started to realize, like, this might be great when it hits the ground, but on the motorcycle, it's actually not effective because round is a horrible shape in a wind tunnel.
Mm,
You get a lot of buffeting. You can't build the back pressure behind the helmet, or the negative pressure behind the helmet to actually pull air through the helmet. Like, as people started actually putting helmets into wind tunnels, they started to realize, oh, we need to change these helmets a little bit, because round is actually a great shape, but it's not functionally great for what it's going to be used for.
right.
And that's where AGV took a big leap when they made the first pista for Valentino Rossi.
Hmm.
Like, Valentino Rossi was out in the pista for about a year and a half, 2 years before we actually introduced the product to the market.
Wow.
And everybody was looking at this new helmet, because before, when AGV was owned by the previous company, they kind of followed that round is better mentality. They had some plastic pieces on the top to make it look cool, and they had some plastic pieces in the back, but they really hadn't perfected aerodynamics. And with the Pista, like, it kind of really brought aerodynamics to the front, because it was an aerodynamic helmet. Its
Hmm.
main purpose was racing, had the biggest eye port that they could possibly put on a helmet without structurally making the helmet structurally unsound. Obviously, they use carbon fiber for the strength. And now, if you look at all the racers, even Arai, they still have a round helmet, but now they put this plastic thing in the back for aerodynamics. Why? Because they finally admitted round is great for crashing, not so great for riding. So that was the last big innovation. There's a lot of companies that have introduced gimmicky things within the EPS.
Hmm.
And the EPS, I think, is the place where there's still more innovation to be had. Over the years, they went from single density EPSs to dual density EPSs to three, four, five density EPSs, multi-piece EPSs,
Now,
which is the
what's
styrofoam inside the
right?
helmet.
Yep, yep.
And so that's how you manage the impact energy. And so by using different densities in different areas, you can have the helmet perform a little bit better in a crash. The last big innovation was during ECE 2206. There was a company, MIPS. They're still around. MIPS makes an internal piece that kind of helps the helmet rotate without rotating the head. So
Okay.
it can take into account rotational force. The only problem is it adds more space in the helmet because you have to put MIPS inside of it. So there's a little bit more volume, there's a little bit more weight. And a lot of companies figured out how to make MIPS work, that rotational force, without using MIPS. So like the way we do it is we have a multi-density EPS,
Mm-hmm.
and the multi-density EPS can actually slightly rotate in a crash to take into account that rotational force without having to add that extra piece of MIPS in there. And a lot of the top companies have done that. Ourselves, Shoei and Arai all have helmets that can pass EC 2206 with the rotational force without the need for MIPS, because we want to still keep the size of the helmet small. We don't
Right.
want to increase the volume. There's some helmets out there right now that are just massive. If you look at them in person, it's like, wow, this is a huge, huge helmet.
Yeah. Wow. And now for development, how much input do you guys get from riders? Is it certain riders? Do you guys? Is there like a test rider for helmet? How does the development work as far as when you're trying to say, riders may be complaining about, "Oh, after a certain amount of time my neck is hurting or anything like that."
We use a couple of test riders. We try not to use the MotoGP or their very visible guys until we have a product that we're happy with.
Okay.
So, but we have other factory test riders that we use to test a lot of the products, because factory test riders do a lot of laps. They get a lot more input and so forth. Even with the current generation of suits that we have out now, we had factory test riders testing those suits before we put them on MotoGP guys, just because we want to make sure that they're working the way they should work.
Mm-hmm.
And then once we put it on the MotoGP guys, we get that last 10, 20% of information, and then we evolve that into a consumer product. But it's a very long time to get the right information. But we have some people out there now in different iterations of like a pista
Mm-hmm.
that we might introduce in the next 3, 4, 5 years. We have people out there with the current iteration of the pista, but with different pieces on it, to see if we can get a little bit more aerodynamics, a little bit more airflow. We're always looking for that, couple of tenths, man. It's
Always chasing.
the pursuit of speed, man, never ends.
No, it does not. And it's amazing how many of us love speed, regardless if it's you're on a motor, in a boat, in the air. It doesn't matter. It's something about it that it brings a certain kind of feeling that you can't duplicate anywhere else. Talking about test riders and stuff like that. How does influences in today's market come into play with any designs, and maybe even do they any influences coming in and say, hey, I have this idea for a helmet. You guys are saying, okay, well, listen. Or how does that how is today influences and developing product work these days?
I think a lot of influencers are pretty good at promoting products, but most of them have no idea what they're promoting.
Okay.
I think a
100%.
lot of yeah, I think a lot of the influencers out there, because again, influencers are one of two. They're either paid or non-paid. If they're non-paid, they're more than happy to get free product and promote it and, whatever. If they're paid, they only want your product and will only promote it if they're getting a check.
Okay. Oh, okay.
And there's a lot of companies out there that are using influencers to peddle garbage. In the past, I want to say 3 to 4 years or 5 years, there's been a couple of helmet manufacturers that have popped up,
Mm-hmm.
and they're paying everybody to wear their products. They're paying everybody to They're paying for everybody's influence. And then you see, if you start really diving into some of the products and you start going on Reddit threads and everything about people that have bought that product, you start to see the real value in that product is not there. The product is really bad. The product falls apart. The product is not safe. I mean, there's thousands of pictures at this point of some helmets that have broken in half, have failed in crashes, and so forth and so on. But the influencers keep peddling the products because those manufacturers keep sending them a check for 500, 600, 5,000, $10,000. If I'm getting 10,000 or 5,000 bucks a month to peddle something and I'm an influencer, do I really care if it's safe or it's not safe? No, I'm getting a check. So we actually, we do work with some influencers, but we work with influencers that kind of hold our values
Mm-hmm.
and follow our values. Like if you look at the people that we work with here in the US, like track stars, Jose German, and a couple of others, Sarah Dean Cole, they love motorcycling, but they also love safety. They love to promote the sport. They have all the same alignments that we have as far as values. If we wanted to go out and get like somebody that has 5.5, 6.5 million followers, all we need to do is cut that guy or girl a check and tell them, hey, promote this product, 8 times this month on your social media channel. It's going to get in front of, 40, 50 million people. And that's great. We only paid, 20, 30,000 bucks to get in front of 25 million people, but we don't.
Right.
If you look at anybody that's connected with Dainese, we have more people connected with Dainese that have less than 300,000 followers than we do that have over 800,000 followers, because we don't need to buy people's influence.
Right.
And we don't, because once you buy influence, you're losing credibility. Like there's a couple of editors right now, like actual motorcycle editors, that are doing what's called paid tutorials. So they're not editorials, they're paid
Oh
tutorials.
wow. So they're only
So
gonna write a
so people
story.
are Yeah, so people are paying them. They'll literally tell somebody, "Hey, you got this new product coming out. If you give me 10 grand, I'm going to take pictures of your product. I'm going to post it on our social media. I'm going to do a video on your product. I'm going to repost that video. We're going to put it in our magazine. We're going to put it here, but you have to pay us 10,000 bucks. I'd rather give you my product, try it, and give an honest review about my product. I don't want to pay for you to say that it's a good product if it really you don't believe in the product just because I paid you.
Right.
And again, this is that influencer mentality, man. I don't want to pay you. I want you to, if my product is not good, I want you to tell the consumer it's not good. If my product is good, I want you to tell them it's good because you tried it and because it proved itself,
Right.
not because I paid you. So, I tell a lot of people when I come across people, hey, this person on social media, this person on YouTube is saying that this company makes this helmet, and that helmet was designed by the guy that designed the Pista.
Mm. You're like,
Really? Because I talked to the guy that designed the Pista literally this morning on our 5 a.m. call.
right, right.
And I'm like, hey, do you work for that company on the side? He was like, I've never seen any money from them, so I don't know what you're talking about. And then they go a little bit deeper, and it's like, oh, wait a second. That company owned the company that used to own AGV. And because they own AGV before Dainese bought it, they're saying that they invented the Pista, when realistically, they invented all the helmets that came before the Pista,
Right.
and all fit horribly and all didn't work very well.
Wow. Um, how I mean, it's more of just generalizing, and because I don't think either one of us will have a solution. But um, is it time for influencers to start policing themselves a little bit with products that they do push? Because I've seen some influencers got bitten by products they humped. This is more in politics, and they got paid by Russians, right? And so they got a little bit of backlash of that. So maybe they may police themselves a little bit more. But in the case of like helmets and gear, people are getting hurt from the products if the products are not built well. Does that go back to the influencer at all, or it just kind of jumps right over and go to the manufacturer of the product?
What I've seen is that some influencers are policing other influencers and calling them out when they are promoting bad product. The problem is, let's say I have a channel that's only has 100,000 followers, and the influencer that's peddling this nonsense has a following of $1.5 million or 1.5 million followers. My complaint is literally a pebble in the ocean. It's only when a lot of influencers come together. And I saw this happen earlier this year with a couple of influencers going after each other for selling riding jeans. And it turns out that they were both peddling competing riding jeans that were both made, I think, in like the same factory, that were both like really low quality jeans. But they went after each other saying, oh, you're peddling these jeans which are trash. And oh, well, you're peddling these jeans that are trash. And it's like, technically, both of you are peddling the same jeans with different labels. Like, um, the consumer needs to just educate themselves better. The consumer needs to don't let other people influence your purchasing, whether it's for gear, for motorcycles, or anything. Do your education, do your due diligence, spend time, get to know the product. This is one of the things we'll talk about with counterfeits.
Let's jump right into it because I was
Yeah.
literally gonna bring that up as far as you know, influencers who have been around for a long time, or not, but they had the ability to work out deals with reputable brands, and they're getting paid and they're fine. There's other influencers that are they're trying to come up, and this is the deal that they can get. And so they may make a deal with a counterfeit company or knockoff company and stuff like that. You know, how can an influencer handle that situation, or what's the best way? Because I mean, yeah, it's easy to say don't sell counterfeit products, but if they're trying to turn their thing into a business, you know I can see people not making the best choices, especially when they need to make money.
Well, we got two things here. There's counterfeit products, and then there's brands versus manufacturers. So like the counterfeit product part of it, most influencers don't attach themselves necessarily to counterfeit product.
Right.
Counterfeit product is usually peddled directly from the manufacturers. So like there's companies in China, Pakistan, Indonesia, Bangladesh that make counterfeit products, and they target the US market, and they're getting really, really good at it. I mean, I've gotten ads on Instagram where it's, hey, Dainese store in Germany is going out of business and we're liquidating all of our
Oh
products.
wow.
And I'm like, well, shit, I know the guy who runs this store in Germany. He didn't tell me we fired him. Like our store in Germany is still open. But then you dive into it and you start to find out that this is a link that goes to a AI generated page that has a specific amount of products. And when you look at the products, sometimes they're pictures of the actual product, but then the actual product that arrives at your door is not that product. It looks like that product, but it's not.
Right.
And now you just got duped because there's no way to get that money back. That money is gone. I mean, you can maybe, fight it with your credit card company. But now here's the other thing. I just gave all my credit card company to somebody in another country, and it's going to take me a week or two or a month to get the product. And in that time, how much other stuff did I buy with that credit card that I didn't know about?
Right.
Like, you have to be a very, very conscious person. Not only are you getting the counterfeit product, which is not what you expect, but you're also giving your credit card information away. So now you're susceptible to identity theft and worse. We get so many counterfeit products because counterfeiters aren't counterfeiting shitty products.
Right.
Nobody counterfeits, nobody is going to counterfeit a built suit or a built jacket. It's already cheap enough. Like
Right.
they want to counterfeit the best. You don't counterfeit a bag that Macy's makes. You counterfeit, like I told you earlier, you counterfeit a Prada bag or a Gucci bag.
Right.
So AGV and Dainese are constantly being counterfeited because we're aspirational brands. We have very, very a vast array of price points. So they want to say, hey, this boot, Dainese sells this boot for $600. We can make this boot in our factory for $9 and sell it for $200. And everybody will buy it thinking they're buying this Dainese boot that's $600. Then they get it and it's not the boot. And then they send it to us saying, hey, I bought this from you and it's fake.
And how, we talked about, the government earlier, getting into things, as far as regulation and stuff like that. From our last conversation, you guys have a gang of attorneys, to fight your battle. Do you ever think about working with governments and, to kind of, you know, try to squash it a little bit, the
I
counterfeiting?
mean, we're always working with like the local government where we file the lawsuits and stuff like that to try to get them accountable. The problem is you can't really do much to companies that are in other countries. You can't do much to companies that are producing items in China. You can't do much to companies that are producing items in Pakistan or Bangladesh. All you can do is kind of keep tearing down their websites, making their URLs void, reporting them. Like it's just, it's whack-a-mole. You just whack the mole and you wait for it to pop up again somewhere else and you whack it. There's really very little. I mean, the consumers drive the demand. So if they see that, consumers are buying piece to helmets for $200, and they're buying, they're selling 1,000 of these $200 piece to helmet that they're making for maybe $11.
Right.
They're going to keep making them, and they're going to keep trying to sell them.
And the biggest, I think, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I assume at that cost, these helmets aren't very safe, or the gear
Oh
is
no!
very safe either. So,
If I fell off this chair with that helmet, I'd probably be dead. Because we
um,
get a lot of these products sent to us by the consumers complaining that we sold them counterfeit products because I bought it from the link that said the Dainese store went out of business. It's like you
right.
didn't buy from us. None of our Dainese stores are out of business.
I run into this, in IT as well, because of just the internet, and how to not get in trouble on the internet with people, and it's very easy for, people who want to take advantage of people who are not computer savvy. It's very
Hmm.
easy today. It's unbelievable how how easy it is today. It's not just the motorcycle, community problem; it's an overall problem. Um, and what I tell clients and such is, education, education, education,
Yeah.
because without it, there's not going to be, there's not an app or a person that can sit, watch your what's coming into your network and protect you that way. You have to be vigilant, where you click. Even if you go to the same places like every day, they can replace that link one day on you, and
Yep.
you'll never know. um, do you guys at Dainese, try to, push out, educational information on, customer beware, or, if you don't see these numbers in on your tag, it's not legit. How much effort, goes there?
I mean, in all of our products, we do a bunch of different things to try to get the customer to see that it's our product. So, like on all of our shoe boxes, there's a hologram label. In all of our clothing, there's a hologram label. There's a stack of labels inside of the suit, inside of the jacket, inside of the pant. All those labels have unique part numbers, have barcodes, have certifications, what certification it's made up to. Like if you look inside any Dainese product, you're going to find maybe 4 to 7 labels all stacked on top of each other. On the jackets, it's on the right hand side. On the suits, it's on the right hand side. On the pants, it's on the left hand side, the right hand side, or the back, depending on the pant. On the shoes, we have on all the shoe boxes a hologram label. Like we try to do our best possible to make sure that the consumer knows that when they get it, they're looking at the right product.
Right.
With that said, unfortunately, when you get it, it's too late. You already got it. How are you going to send this back to China or wherever it came from?
Right.
So just educate yourself. If you're buying product, buy it from reputable shops, buy it from reputable dealers. Look at how many customers they've had. Look at the reviews. If they have any customer reviews, like if you're buying it from eBay, if they only have like 3 reviews or they've only sold 5 items, don't buy from them. If you go on Amazon, look and click and see how many reviews they have. And outside of that, if you're going to a specific site, try to buy from within the country you're in. If somebody from Brazil is trying to sell you a pista, probably don't buy that pista, man.
Yeah.
Like, we try to buy up all the domain names that we can, but it's impossible to buy up all the domain names. Like for Mexico, we have agv.mx.
Hmm.
We have agv.br. We have agv.co. We have Dainese. We try to buy as many domain names so people can't use our domain name. But even with that, people will come up with something like agvmexico.mx.
Yeah.
It's, just a buyer beware, man.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree with you with buyer beware. Do you think some of these people know they're buying knockoff though, and they and they still I'm just gonna do it anyway, because
No, I mean, from the feedback that I've gotten from our after sales team, which is our warranty team,
hmm.
a lot of people actually really do believe or did believe they were getting
Wow,
a great deal
wow,
on a Full Metal 6 glove or on an Axial boot or on a race suit. Hey, custom Dainese race suits, blah 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 blah, $800. I'm like, dude, how is a race suit that's custom only $100 more than our actual boots
right.
that are off the like our boot has carbon fiber in it. How is that boot being sold for $180? Like the carbon fiber is more than $180 in the boot itself. Like it's
Okay, wow.
yeah.
I wondered about that because again, you know, we think about it. Or I think about it. When I buy things and so forth, and if I see something, I was getting my daughter some sneakers, and she wanted the Jordan 4s, and I was like, all right, I'll go look and see, and it was just like, all right, I found a pair, it's reasonable price, and then I'm looking at it, and it's just like, oh, to be here a month from now, and I'm like, oh, where's that coming from?
That's how long it takes that kid that's making your kid her sneakers to make the sneakers.
And so it's just like, all right, okay, this is like if the deal seems too good to be true, it is too good to be true.
Yeah,
And that's so it's unfortunate that people are getting duped, but I think it's happening all around the world. There's scammers all around the world. So it's
yeah,
very
for sure.
it's a lot of it's unfortunate that we have to put work in to keep things safe, not even just to push a product, just to keep other consumers from getting scammed and so forth. So,
Well,
um,
that's the worst part about it is, these are safety products.
yeah,
And, these people are selling people false security.
yeah,
And if it was a pair of sneakers, it's a pair of sneakers. But if it's a helmet, I mean, you're talking about a life-saving device,
right.
and you're selling somebody that you know something that can protect them. Like there's just, I don't know. I hope there's a special place in hell for those people, man.
No, I completely agree. You're absolutely right. Anything safety wise, medicine, when people do things that take advantage of people's lives, yeah, I agree with you there. I know we ran out of time, man, and
Well,
we're
we
gonna.
still got we still have 4 minutes if you'd like, because I just wanted to do a recap on Motor America if you want it.
All right, let's do it. Let's jump into it, man.
Because I wanted to talk some racing today, because I love racing as much as you do. So the season ended. Obviously,
Yeah.
we have our champions in all the classes. It was actually a really good season. The feedback and the turnout this year at a lot of the events was really, really good. I got to go to quite a few of the major events,
Okay.
and the turnout was really good. And as much as people bag on the baggers, the bagger series is really like a big series, man. Like I went to the last round in New Jersey, and I'm gonna say 50% of the motorcycles that showed up were in sport bikes, man.
Wow.
Yeah, like
Uh,
there was a lot of Harley Davidsons, a lot of Indians in the parking lot that were there to see baggers.
Now, do you think the season is it just people coming back into motorcycling in general and came out more this year than before? Is it really the Bagger series that's drawing the attention? As far as the crowd.
I think it's a combination of a couple things. I think people are coming out a little bit more. I think Moto America still needs to keep working on some of the things because at some of the events, the number one complaint that I got to hear from a lot of people is the cost of going to the event
Hmm.
has gotten really high
Okay.
in some cases. And so, if you think about it, if I'm going out with, my wife, my two kids, if that's going to be a $250 day, that's a little bit, for some people, it's a little hard to swallow, for
Right.
250 bucks, but what I think the baggers are doing is the baggers are bringing back the people that used to be sport bike riders and now their back can't handle being on a sport bike, so they
Right.
have baggers,
Yeah.
and now they have something to cheer for again because hey, that guy is doing that on this motorcycle that I own,
Right. Um,
and it's just bringing in a different viewership.
Nice. Yeah, I've been to, well, if not Motor America, but it was a CCS as round because the baggers did come to some of those rounds,
Yep.
and so I've gotten to see some of those motorcycles on track and stuff like that. It's pretty wild to see. Now Josh Herron, winning Super Sport the year before and coming in into the Superbike class and running away with it. Bulaga is trying to kind of do the same thing in Superbike, but I don't think, and World Superbike, but I don't think he's gonna get it unless somebody kidnap Top Rock. uh,
Yeah. No, Bulaga is, Bulaga's done an incredible year. When you think Bulaga's a unique guy because I followed his career for a very long time.
yeah, yeah,
And you think about where he's gone from Moto 2 to Moto 3 to like being on the cusp of going to GP and getting rides and losing rides and he was out of the sport.
he was a
He was
VR6 Academy rider.
he was, but you know what? He made some bad decisions. He had some bad management. He just ran into some bad luck, and it happens even here in the U.S. You talk to any racer, the number one thing that you have to be careful for in racing in the U.S. is the guy that promises you something, because everybody promises you something.
Right, right, right.
And he was just racing like the Italian series and the CEV and stuff like that, and then he got an opportunity to do the V2 last year. Did amazing because the guy is a talented rider,
Yeah,
and then he steps up to the factory team and he still shows like, hey, he's a top quality rider.
yeah. No,
But yeah, Top Rack's, unless the BMW falls apart or somebody kidnaps Top Rack, I seriously doubt that he's going to let that championship slip through his fingers.
I completely agree. Now, yes, to go back to Josh Herron, though. I mean, what do you think about his season and what he did? And do you think that since Gagne been killing it, if Gagne was healthy, do you think the competition would have been closer? And I know it went down to pretty much the last weekend, um, but Herron was pretty consistent for the year.
Yeah, I mean that was the problem with this season in Superbike is Gagne just couldn't get healthy. And to be honest with you, man, I hope he can make it back, but it doesn't look good for him coming back. I mean, from what I understand, he's had multiple surgeries on his arm because of his arm pump issues over the years.
Hmm.
And at this point, do you want to have more surgery on your arm at this stage in your career? Or, hey, you know what? I've made enough money. Like, maybe I'll just chill.
Right, right.
And then same thing with Bobier. Bobier started the year, pretty good. Last year he had a good year, but he had a couple of really bad crashes. He got hurt pretty bad twice.
Yeah.
I know he really got his bell rung at the crash in Pittsburgh. He came back this year. He had again some more issues medically. So Josh was able to win, obviously, because he was consistently the guy that was there every weekend. We had guys that had spurts, peaks and valleys.
Yep, yep.
Um, I'm a little bit biased because I work with Bobby Fong,
Okay.
and I was just happy to see him doing as well as he was doing, knowing the bike that he's on versus the bikes that he's competing against. I mean, he ended up the Yamaha with the most points, but he's on the non-factory, technically Yamaha team. He's on a bike that is kind of like a hand-me-down bike. and he only has one bike.
Oh,
So if he
whoa.
crashes that bike, they have to fix that bike that day, and then he has to go back on a crashed bike. He doesn't have a second bike.
Okay.
So he did really well with what he had. I think with a different team, he might do a little bit better, and that's another sad thing. Right after the season finished, the wrench team announced that they were not coming back next year.
Oh,
So now Bobby is kind of out of a ride, and it's like, dude, I finished
the best.
third in the
Yeah.
championship, number one Yamaha, and like most guys, he's looking for a job now to race next year.
Wow. And do you think Yamaha factory might look at Bobby?
It's hard to say because I mean the Yamaha team has like their guys. So if anybody's going to get to the factory team, let's say if Josh decides to not come back,
Hmm.
or Jake
Jake.
decides not to come back, or even if the other rider, the South African gentleman, uh,
Peterson.
Peterson, if he decides not to come back, one of those two seats I think will go to Matthew Schultz
Okay.
because he's been on Yamaha for a long time. He was on the Westby team for a long time. He just, he won them the Super Sport Championship against the V2 on an R6 that was seriously,
Built.
outmatched. It was built to the teeth, but it has to be built to the teeth, and so I think if anybody will get a factory ride, it'll probably be him first. I'll be surprised if it's something that Bobby gets offered.
Okay.
Where Bobby falls right now, it's hard to say because again, all these teams at the end of the year are all doing these little dances to figure out where money is coming from, how they're going to race, what bikes they're going to race, everything that's going to happen.
Right. Now, do you think Schultz is actually going to come back up to factory, or come up to Superbike, after going to Super Sport? I mean, it seemed like I look at Cambodia, who I think he should have stayed in MotoGP in Moto Two, but I also saw his ability when he came back, how he dominated. But I think he got that experience from Moto 2. I feel like he's coming in as a cheetah, but he's coming from a different stage. So it's kind of I know World Superbike bike got more horsepower, but the Moto 2 category is you got the top 20 something riders in the world, and
Yeah, but if you look at what Cam did before he left the US to go to Moto 2,
hmm
he was dominant.
yeah,
Like he got to Moto 2 because he was so dominant here in the
right,
US.
yeah,
And so the guy has talent. I don't know what his Moto 2 experience is, but obviously he wasn't on one of the top teams. He wasn't on one of what people would consider the top bikes.
right,
So they had some technical issues and some struggles. He still did very well with what he had. I think he could definitely go even further because the guy has shown through the Red Bull Cup, Red Bull Rookies Cup, and all that he's an incredible talent.
right,
Um, I think he should stay in Superbike. I would love to see him go to World Superbike, to be honest with you,
yeah,
if he had the opportunity. The thing is, he's married now, he has a kid. Does he want to move his whole family to Europe
right,
for a year or two to do this? His best bet would be to stay here, try to get healthier. Maybe the Tyler's team can get some more support from BMW, get that BMW closer to what Top Rack is racing in right now, because that thing looks unstoppable.
right,
And he could be very, very good here. Will he go to Yamaha? If he doesn't have a contract with Tyler's and Yamaha opens him a spot, why wouldn't he go to Yamaha?
right,
You know,
right.
I think he's him, Bobby, and a couple other guys are just guys that if anybody's going to be looking for somebody and wants to be competitive, these are the guys they need to be looking at.
Okay, no doubt.
If you want to just go race for the sake of racing, you can hire anybody. But if you want to be competitive, there's like 3 or 4 available people that can do really good on your team.
Okay, nice. Now, before I let you go, what are your
Yep.
thoughts on the new Yamaha 3-cylinder, the R9 coming out? I don't know how much you know about the what electronics are going to look like for those second gen bikes. I know in Moto 2 for not Moto 2 in Moto America for next season.
Oh well, the R9. A lot of people. I was online and I saw the avalanche of poo poo that people had against the R9, and I think it's because of the naming convention. Like Yamaha uses this naming convention where, the R6, the R7, the R3, and every time the number goes up, people think it's going to exponentially get better. The
Gotcha.
R7 is not better than the R6. So people poo-pooed on the R7, but the R7 was never meant to be better than the R6. It was really meant to compete with, like, the twins class.
Right. So it probably should have been an R5.
It should have been an R5, or don't call it that. Call it the R medium or something. Like when you make the number higher than the previous number, it automatically puts into people, oh, bigger's better.
Right, right.
It's like, but if it's bigger, it also needs to be significantly bigger. So everybody's like, oh, the R9, if the R1 makes 200 something horsepower, then the R9 should make 900, or 90% of what the R1 makes. And it's not realistic. It's a 3-cylinder motor. It's built to make more torque as well as make equal horsepower. And that's kind of what they did. I mean, if you look at the specs, if you just step back from all the numbers, it's making the same horsepower, more or less, than a stock R6 makes, but it's making significantly more torque.
Okay. So
So
go ahead.
it's going to work differently, but if the R6 is competitive as it is now with less torque, this bike should be just as competitive, or if not more so, with more torque. The only problem that I see is because the horsepower is still below what the V2 is, they're going to have to do the same thing to the R9 that they did to the R6. They're going to have to build the hell out of that motor. So the motor might cost anywhere between $20,000 to $30,000 a motor. And then you're going to have to rebuild that motor every so many weekends, which is going to cost you another, $1,500 to $2,500 to rebuild every so many weekends. So then the cost of racing that bike becomes exponentially very big.
Right.
Whereas the V2 Ducati, you pretty much race the motor that comes with the bike, and you just fix the electronics a little bit, tune it, do this and that. But you pretty much racing a stock bike against a have to be built to the moon bike. And that's where I think a lot of the consumers and the pundits online, the professional motorcycle keyboard racers.
I like that. Put that on t-shirt.
That's where they kind of like, oh, well, it's not as powerful as the V2. And I do think also the V2 needs to be detuned a little bit to stay in that class.
Yes.
Because it is a rocket ship. The only race this year that Schultz really walked away with was like 1 or 2 races. Everybody else, he was there, but the cost of ownership to make a Yamaha competitive against a stock V2 makes it really difficult for people to race a Yamaha.
Right. Now, do you think that they're going to have an SP version and maybe that might have 15 more horsepower on it?
I mean, who knows what Yamaha does?
Maybe they'll do an SP version and it'll be
I
like
think
130 something.
I think with a good tune, with some, a different exhaust and so forth, and a good tune, I mean, you could probably squeeze another 10 to 15 horsepower out of the bike without actually having go into the motor. And then once you go into the motor, then you really can get even more horsepower out of the motor. Because remember, they're making a consumer bike. They have to work within this framework of 800 some odd cc's. It's pretty much an MT09 motor put into a more race chassis. With the electronics do look really good though. Like, it comes stock with a lot of good electronic features. And I think it'll be a great bike for those that want to go race something other than the R6.
Right.
I tell everybody this week, I told everybody, I thank Yamaha for increasing the value of my R6 by $3,500 when it comes time to sell it, because they're becoming more and more difficult to find. And the resale value of mine went up now because so many people think that the R9 is not a good replacement, but it's actually it's going to be a very competitive replacement for the R6.
Yeah, I think so too. I have a R6 as well, and I think for daily riding and having the 3-cylinder engine is going to be much better. You can have a little bit more fun, light to light, than waiting for the R6 to scream up. so
yeah.
I think normal driving to be pretty good, and we'll see on race tracks, on the pro tracks, but club racing, small tracks, we see it with the Triumphs, what they do, now with guys that ride the Triumph. So, I think it's going to be similar with guys coming coming off the apex or coming out of the corner and being able
I,
to drive more.
I think people are going to be. I think people are going to be surprised how competitive the R6, the R9 is going to be at the start of the season. I know a couple of people that have been testing that bike, and it has some work to do, but all of them say that the bike has a lot of promise to be a very, very good replacement for the R6. Like Yamaha is not going to come to the market with something that's not competitive at all.
Right.
That's what the Yamaha and MotoGP for to
Yeah.
be not competitive at all.
I completely agree. I think Yamaha have an idea what they're doing, and I think they see where MV and Ducati is gone and Triumph's gone, and they're late to the game, but at least they have the right engine because the triple. I haven't ridden the R9s. I've ridden more Triumphs, but I am a big fan of the triples.
Yep. No, it'll be another good year next year. There's going to be a lot of changes in some of the classes. We have that new Kramer class that's starting next year. I wish those guys a ton of luck. I definitely want to see more competitive racing from younger kids, just to keep building the talent, to keep the cost down, to make it more accessible to more people. It's one of the main things that I love about looking at the Junior Cup now is seeing all the different faces that are racing in that series. Because I really want the sport to grow, and the sport will only grow if we can see more different faces racing. It can't just be the same group all the time. And I see it now. I see like boys, girls, every color in the rainbow. Like they're all racing, and it's like when I go through the paddock now, I have this smile on my face because it's like, you know, that kid looks like me, or that kid looks like me. So like when I bring my nephews and my nieces and they can talk in Spanish to one of the racers there, or I have friends of mine from the Northeast that they have their kids riding, and I'm like, and I remember when I first met them 20 years ago, and in the paddock, like we were the only Hispanic and African American in the entire paddock, and now it's like, dude, there's so many of us here.
Yeah,
And
I completely agree. I mean, I started in 2013 going to racetracks, and the last few years, I've seen a lot more people that look like me and you,
yeah,
for,
yeah,
for
yeah.
for sure at the racetrack and doing track days and stuff like that. And I have always said on the show and to people that until my buddy told me about going to the track, I didn't even think that's something you could do. So there's a lot of people out there still don't realize, hey, you can take your bike to the track, and it's not because they don't want to, they just don't know that's an option.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's again, this goes back to like the community of motorcycling, yourself and other people that have a voice or that can go out there and speak to other people and encourage them to try something. Hey, instead of doing what you're doing here, bring it to the racetrack for a day. You know, test yourself, really test yourself. Come here, a controlled environment. You can go as fast as you comfortably feel going, and then from there you can continue to go faster. Um, Anything we can do to bring more people into the sport, but then once they're in the sport, expose them to everything the sport has to offer. I have friends that never did an ADV ride.
Wow.
Like they never went off road. They
Yeah.
only rode street bikes. And then we went to an event in that left out of Nevada. It was a 7-day ADV event, and they all came back and bought adventure touring bikes because now they're like, dude, we're adventure touring people. I'm like, all right, cool. So now they drive up to like New York State, and they do all these fire trails, and they do all these roads, and they do all this stuff. And it's, again, man, the more you allow yourself to be exposed to,
Hmm.
you'll find that there's so much more fun stuff here in our community, in our two-wheel community.
No doubt.
I'll say three-wheel community, but Can-Am people, like,
I'll wave to you, but it is what it is.
I'll wave to you. Yeah, yeah.
Maybe one day
I'm
I
sure
might.
you're having fun.
Yeah, yeah. one day I might be on a three wheeler myself if I can't hold the bike up.
Exactly. That's
So
why I don't want. That's why I don't want to talk bad about
I
it.
know.
Just in case I end up in a three wheeler, I'm like, God
Because
damn, I gotta eat.
I need to be on a bike moving. So if that's all I can do, I'm doing it. So I ain't mad at people
Yeah,
who do it because not I assume they just not comfortable holding the bigger bikes up, and I think that's they ride the three wheelers. So I'm
yeah,
glad
yeah.
that
No,
it's there.
I have a bunch of friends that have Can-Am spiders, and they all say the same thing. Like, they love motorcycles, but they don't feel confident in themselves being on a motorcycle. So this gives them the ability to have the feeling of being on a motorcycle, but it within their feeling of protection, which
Right.
is great.
Yeah.
Like you're doing something. At least you're doing something, and you do get some of that feeling, the wind in your face, like the rush of the acceleration. You have something different. You're doing something unique that other people aren't doing. So it's cool.
All right, man. Awesome. It was nice having you on today. And we'll continue to spread the love of this motorcycle community and to get, hopefully continue to get more people to come out, buying gear, buying bikes and just coming to the racetrack. Because, it's I've fought like I'd mentioned before. It's like the motorcycle industry in the US took a hit and
Yep.
just being there though, it's like I shouldn't say everybody should grow up on the racetrack, but like it's such a wonderful experience most of the times that
Yeah.
it's like to get there and just to take it in just for even I've had people just come for one weekend and they love it. You know what I mean? And again, they've never been to a racetrack before, and they came out to Daytona, and it was bike week, and everything is going on, and it's like they're taking all this in, and it's always nice to see. We take it for granted, being there multiple times, but I still remember the first time going to Daytona or going
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
Coda or Mugello or wherever. It's like that first time feeling is something you take with you forever.
Yeah, no, for sure. This is a great community because the shared experience that we have is very unique. Not everybody has this experience. And even if people don't ride motorcycles, if you can get people that don't ride motorcycles at least to come to some of these events
Yeah.
and share in what this community is really all about, which is the celebration of what we do and motorcycling and engineering and everything. It's you really open your mind up and you see like the entire cross section of the country. I don't think there's a segment of this country that doesn't like motorcycles.
I
No
completely
matter where
agree.
you're from, people love motorcycles.
Yeah,
They're cool. Like they're just fucking cool, man.
I completely agree.
But
Go ahead.
we'll have another chat soon. The next chat we'll schedule it at some time, but we could have another chat. Maybe the next time we'll talk about some of the projects we have going on here at Dainese that hopefully by then will be public,
Okay.
and we can kind of dive into some of these new products that are going to be introduced during ECMA.
All right, no doubt, man. Let's definitely do it. I can't wait.
All
Louis
right,
Ortega from Dainese.
take care.
Take care. Peace.